when the building superintendent told Sarah that someone had finally rented apartment 3B. She was surprised. It had been vacant for almost 15 years, ever since the last tenant vanished without a trace. The new tenant was an old man named Mr. Desmond Hale. Thin, pale, always dressed in black with a wide-brimmed hat and gloves. He moved in quietly and rarely left his apartment. He didn't use a phone, internet, or even speak much when spoken to. He just stared, deeply, like he could see something others couldn't. A week after Mr. Hale moved in, strange things started happening. Late at night, residents heard scratching behind their walls. Lights flickered, pets went missing. One tenant claimed she saw someone or something crawling on the ceiling of the hallway. Sarah, curious and concerned, knocked on 3B. Mr. Hale opened the door just a crack. "Yes?" he asked, his voice raspy. "Have you seen or heard anything strange lately?" He didn't blink. Everything is strange if you look long enough. And he closed the door. Sarah noticed that every time Hale left his apartment, always around 3 a.m., he locked a heavy metal latch inside. No one else in the building had it. She became obsessed. One night, while Hale was out, she sneaked in using a copied master key. The apartment was filled with old books, all about demonology, death rituals, and forbidden sciences. In the bedroom, a thick chain was nailed into the floor, like something or someone had been kept there. Then she found the back room locked with a heavy iron bolt, and from behind it, whispering. Mr. Hale caught her as she was trying to pick the lock. But instead of calling the police, he invited her in. "I was a warden," he said slowly, "of something ancient. I spent 50 years keeping it locked beneath a mountain monastery. But they shut the place down. No more funding. They let it go." He unlatched the door. Sarah stepped back. Inside, chained to the floor, was a figure, pale, eyeless, teeth like needles. It hissed. "It followed me here," Hale said. "I'm too old to hold it for much longer." The lights flickered. The creature smiled. "You have a choice," Hale said. "Run, and it will feed on every soul in this building, or help me trap it forever." Sarah stood frozen. That night, the building went dark. When police arrived the next morning, after reports of screaming, they found the apartment empty, except for Mr. Hale's hat and gloves on the floor. The door to 3B is sealed again, but sometimes, at 3 a.m., you can hear scratching behind the walls. 6 months after the 3B incident, the building was mostly empty. Rumors spread. People talked of curses, disappearances, ghosts. Most moved out. But one man moved in. Michael Reyes, a quiet, middle-aged writer, rented apartment 3A, right across from the sealed door of 3B. He had heard the stories, but didn't believe in the supernatural. For him, it was cheap rent and peace to work on his new horror novel. He didn't know what real horror was yet. The first night, Michael heard it. Scratch, scratch, scratch. At exactly 3 a.m., coming from behind the wall that connected to apartment 3B. At first, he thought it was rats, but the scratching grew louder each night. Rhythmic, deliberate, almost like something was counting. He asked the building's new superintendent about 3B. Sealed, she said. No key, no entry, nothing alive in there. But Michael had a dream, a nightmare. An old man in black appeared at the foot of his bed. You're already listening, the man whispered. That means it's awake again. Determined to prove something was inside, Michael placed a tape recorder at the wall and let it run through the night. The next morning, he played it back. At first, static. Then, a voice, faint, whispered, "Let me out. Help me, Sarah." He didn't know who Sarah was, but he began digging through police reports, old building files, and local newspaper archives. Sarah Whitfield, last seen in the building, never found, no known relatives. Michael became obsessed. One night, he pried loose a portion of the wall between his apartment and 3B. Behind it was not insulation or pipes, but a hollow crawl space, and a mirror facing him. On the mirror, written in what looked like old blood, "You looked, it sees." From the dark beyond, something moved. He staggered back, sealing the wall again, but the whispers were louder now. He saw shadows that didn't match his body, mirrors that reflected things that weren't there. And every time he blinked, he saw her, Sarah, banging silently on the other side of glass. The scratching turned into banging. 3 a.m. became the most dangerous hour. Lights died, locks unlatched. The entire floor seemed to breathe. Michael found a journal slipped under his door, leather-bound, old. It belonged to Mr. Desmond Hale. Inside were instructions, a ritual to seal the creature again, but it required a new warden, a willing one. Michael had a choice: become what Hale once was, or let it out. Devon, growing curious, asked the older tenants about 3B. Most avoided the topic. One old woman, half blind and always whispering to herself, finally said, "There's a man in there. Keeps something in chains, or something keeps him." That night, Devon found a journal shoved beneath the door of his supply closet, a different one this time, rough, handwritten, pages torn. Inside were entries signed M. Reyes. "I can't sleep. I don't dream anymore, I relive. The thing talks now. Says it remembers my mother's name. It lied. Or it didn't. I don't know which is worse. Sometimes it scratches just to keep me awake. Sometimes it doesn't scratch at all. That's worse." Devon laughed it off until the next night when the scratches stopped, and then he heard breathing just behind his own ear. The next morning, the building was quiet again. Police came after neighbors complained of screams again. Apartment 3A was empty, so was 3B. But there was something new on the door of 3B. A brass plate. It read, "Warden. M. Reyes. Do not disturb between 3-4 a.m." 2 years later, most people had forgotten about the old building on Hemlock Street. New management, new paint, new name, the Elms Residences. Only one rule remained in the lease. Tenants must not disturb apartment 3B between 3 and 4 a.m. No one questioned it, not openly, but everyone felt something when walking past that door. Then came Devon Marks, a new maintenance man, young, confident, and skeptical of ghost stories. He worked night shifts, fixing plumbing and clearing trash, and one night, while changing a hallway bulb, he heard it, bang, 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 from inside 3B. He knocked, joking, "Hey, you good in there?" No answer. But later, he found a single red glove in his toolbox. He didn't own gloves. Against every warning, Devon stole a key from the building office. At 3:06 a.m., he unlocked 3B. It looked like a mausoleum, gray walls, chains bolted to the floor, salt circles, and dozens of ticking clocks, none of them showing the same time. In the center of the room sat a man, hunched, pale, muttering to himself. Michael Reyes. "I'm tired," he said. "You came. So now I can rest." Devon backed away, but the door slammed shut. Reyes smiled weakly. "You don't get it, do you? The building doesn't just contain it. It feeds it. The walls are hungry, the whispers are veins." And then Reyes stepped outside the salt circle. The moment he did, everything stopped. The clocks, the lights, even Devon's heartbeat. The thing in the shadows uncoiled. Reyes vanished. The next morning, Devon was found asleep in the hallway. He didn't remember what happened, not clearly. But that night, he walked, as if in a trance, to apartment 3B. He entered without fear. The door shut behind him. The new plate now reads, "Warden D. Marks. Do not disturb between 3 to 4 a.m. The tenants whisper again. Some say they hear two voices behind the door now, one old, one new. Sometimes the scratching stops. That's always when something bad happens. It had been 5 years since anyone last saw Devon Marks outside apartment 3B. The building was now nearly full again. The warnings had faded into urban myth. The warden plaque overlooked like an old superstition. But one day, a woman arrived, uninvited, unannounced. Her name was Sarah Whitfield. She wasn't dead. She had spent years locked between dimensions, a prison of mirrors and whispers, trapped by the same entity Hale had once kept. But she had returned, older, quieter, and filled with knowledge. She asked the superintendent one thing: "Has anyone been scratching lately?" The woman turned pale. "Only in the walls behind 3B. Sarah nodded. "It's weakening the seal." Sarah broke into 3B at exactly 2:59 a.m. Inside, she found Devon, gaunt, ghost-eyed, speaking in tongues, hands covered in ash. The chains were still intact, but the salt lines were cracked. The air was thick with something wrong, like rot and electricity. And in the center of the room, the creature. It had changed. Taller, hungrier. Its shape was unclear, shifting. Its mouth didn't move, but it spoke into her spine. "You were the first who saw, the first who heard. You brought me here." Sarah replied, "Then I'm the one who ends it." She opened the last page of Hale's original journal, now almost dust. It held the true ritual, not to contain the creature, but to destroy it. The price, the soul of the one who released it, the original witness, Sarah. Devon begged her to stop, but she stepped into the circle. The creature screamed, the clocks shattered, and the entire building shook. The lights went out. When emergency services arrived hours later, apartment 3B was silent. Inside, they found nothing. No Devon, no Sarah, no chains, no clocks, not even a floor, just a scorched, circular mark burned into the concrete. the plaque was gone. The scratching never returned, and for the first time in decades, 3B was no longer sealed. It was simply empty. Years later, a new couple moved into 3B. Fresh paint, renovated floors, no signs of anything unusual. But some nights, when the wind howls through the hallway, they say the doorknob gets warm, and a whisper echoes faintly through the apartment. Everything is strange if you look long enough.